Well, the message I'm sharing tonight, I shared a few weeks ago for our IHOP staff. And the moment that I shared it, I knew I was going to share it again tonight. I knew I was. I think I was midway through preaching it to the staff, and I thought, I'm sharing this with the school. I have to. Now, for the freshmen, for the new students, for the One Thing interns, and how many of you guys appreciated Zach Van Buren just now? He just did. If anyone saw that, Spider-Man movie from this summer, he did a chai tea thing. He did a non-bread thing. You called them OTI interns. You did. No, you said chai tea. You said ATM machine. Yeah, One Thing internship, One Thing interns. So it's a mild chai tea moment. So for the, I shouldn't make observational jokes because you guys are like, observational humor. Just instant conversation. Well, this message tonight, you got the notes. How many of you need the notes, that want the notes? Raise your hand if you need the notes, that want the notes. We got a handful. The rest of you have the notes. Now, I shared this message a few weeks back for our staff that had just done the 21-day fast together. The Isaiah 62 21-day fast. But I wanted to share it for the school because many of you, the students that are back from last year, you did the fast. It was a really unique moment for us to be all together as a school. And again, you guys know the story. I'm saying this for the new folks. We were doing a 21-day fast that 5 million around the world jumped in on with us. And so 5 million, for the first time in church history, 5 million praying for Israel, for Jerusalem, for the salvation of the Jewish people. 5 million praying together for 21 days. It's never happened before in church history. And so it was a legitimate, historic, unprecedented moment. And then in the midst of that, the staff, I was talking with Mike Bickle about this afterwards, and I like what he said. He goes, the 21-day fast is the best thing IHOP has ever done except start IHOP. And it's true. I said, I've never seen a fast where people are still losing weight on the 21st day. Usually, as you approach the end of a fast, it's like, yeah, I stopped fasting a few days back. It's like you didn't even need to tell us. That water weight comes back quickly. If fasting is your dieting strategy, I assure you that's fool's gold. It just takes a little carb and bam, you're back. And so that 21-day fast, it's the first fast, extended corporate fast, and we did it all together. It's the first one I'd ever been a part of where more people were fasting and praying in the prayer room together than at the beginning of the fast. And more people were engaging the whole 21 days. I just have not been part of a corporate fast like that. Everything naturally loses momentum. It's my point earlier about complaining in 6 weeks. It's not because you're bad people, it's because you're human. The laws of physics are undefeated as it relates to entropy. There's the natural degradation of things. It gets harder to sustain stuff. It gets harder to stay with stuff. But this 21-day fast was the first one I've ever seen gain momentum as we got to the end. And of course, to me, the most special part of the whole fast was doing the fast together with the IHOP U leadership team and the IHOP U and the internships, the IHOP U student body, all together in the prayer room for 21 days. The IHOP U leadership team changed their schedule and did noon to midnight together or 6 to midnight together for 21 days. And so it was the first time that I'm aware of in all my years of being a part of IHOP U, which is from the beginning. It's the first time that I'm aware of that the entire school, the leadership team, faculty, staff, we all did a 21-day fast together in the prayer room for 21 days. It's very special. It's a really critical moment. And so the for you freshmen and for those of you that are just joining us, you weren't a part of the 21-day fast, but you may have been where you were from, but I want to assure you this message is as much for you as it is for the ones that did the fast, because it's a learning moment. It's a moment to learn this lesson. And you're going to think that I'm joking, and I said this to the staff. I'm not joking with this title at all, not one bit. The title is Healthy Self-Evaluation After Historic, Epic, Gigantic, Sovereign Moments. It's not a joke. I'm not joking at all. There's been some really key moments for us as a staff and a school over the past 4 or 5 years. I've called the last 4 or 5 years the next chapter of our prophetic history. I've never experienced personally. And I lived through the Brownsville revival. I lived through the Toronto blessing. You don't even have to know what that is. I lived through the Lakeland renewal, the Laughing renewal. I lived through the Melbourne renewal. I was a part of all 4 of those, actually. I was a part of all 4 historic moves of the Spirit as a 19, 20, 21-year-old. I watched historic movements of the Holy Spirit touch the ends of the earth from Toronto, from Brownsville, etc. I was there. I was here at the epicenter of the IHOP Youth Student Awakening and the way that God moved in power there. But I would say that in all my years of ministry, I've never seen a 4 or 5 year stretch like the one we're in right now. I've never seen anything like it before. And so if you feel like you missed out on the last historic moment, the reason that I'm sharing this tonight isn't because you missed out. I'm sharing this tonight because I want to learn from it, because there will be many, many more in the next few years. That's the nature of the times that we find ourselves in. The nature of the time is that we're staring at unprecedented global change and unprecedented global shaking related to that change. It's right here. It's on us. I shared a little bit with the new students on Thursday night. And so I want to learn. But to learn means we got to break out of something that I think makes it hard to self-evaluate after these key moments in a healthy way. I really mean it. Healthy self-evaluation. In other words, it's the temptation. How did I do? That's the thing we want to ask after big moments, after God moments, after movements of God that we're a part of. We want to ask the question, how did I do? We want to evaluate ourselves. Did I do well? Did I do good? Did I do a good job? Did I do good work? Somebody tell me how I did. We want to know how we did. How many of you can relate? Don't raise your hand. I know you can all relate to that. It's a preacher question. How many of you can relate to that? The answer is all of you can relate to that. We want to know. We kind of do, but we kind of don't. It's like, I want you to evaluate me, but I don't want you to evaluate me. I want you to tell me what a good job I did. I don't actually want you to evaluate me. But there's an ache in the human heart. We want to know, how did we do? And so I want to talk about healthy self-evaluation. What is healthy self-evaluation? Well, I want to read a couple of key passages. 1 Corinthians 4, verses 1 through 5. This is a really important passage. I'm guessing most of you have never heard a preacher preach or teach from this passage, but it's really important. He said, "Let a man so consider us as servants of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. Moreover, it is required in stewards that one be found faithful." In other words, we're a steward of something, and we are going to be held accountable to whether or not we're stewarding it. We're going to stand before Jesus, and he's going to call us into account regarding whether or not we did it. That it is very specific. Stewards of the mysteries of God. It's required that we be found faithful to that stewardship. So naturally, the question that Paul's addressing is going to arise. Naturally, we're going to ask the question, how did I do? How am I doing? How did we do? Did I do a good job at the thing that I'm going to be accountable for? And he says this really important point. He says, but with me, it is a very small thing that I should be judged by you. This is such an important point. It is a very small thing that I would be judged by a human court. In fact, I do not even judge myself. I don't evaluate me related to how I'm doing. What a huge point. I don't really care what you think about me related to how I'm doing. I don't care what a human court has to say about it. In fact, Paul says, I don't care what I have to say about it. What a statement. He goes, for I know nothing against myself, but I'm not justified by this. That's a huge sentence right there. I'm going to explain it in a minute. I'm not justified by what I know about myself. I don't have anything, in my own opinion. I don't have anything wrong with me. I don't have anything where I've been disqualified. I don't have any areas where I think I'm coming short. But I'm not justified by my own opinion about me. That doesn't justify me. It doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't make me feel like I'm doing it. But he who judges me is the Lord. That is the most important sentence in this passage and the most difficult one to get to in your soul. If you get there, I just want to advertise this. If you get there, he who judges me is the Lord. You don't evaluate me, they don't evaluate me, and I don't evaluate me. The one who evaluates me is the Lord. If you can actually get to that sentence in your soul, this is what Jesus said. He said, your whole body will be filled with light. But if you don't get there, if you can't find your way to the one that judges me, the one that evaluates me, the one that evaluates how I'm doing, the one that evaluates how I'm living, the one that evaluates how I did, if you can't get there and you're stuck in everyone else's evaluation of you and how everyone else thinks you're doing, and then, of course, the big point, tormented by how you think you're doing, and then projecting that onto God as if he agrees with you. Jesus said, he goes, your whole body will be filled with darkness. And great is that darkness. We call that here living before an audience of one. Living before an audience of one. In other words, the one that sees me is the Lord, and the one that evaluates me is the Lord, and the voice that counts is the Lord's. If I can actually make that real in terms of how I do life in self-evaluation, my whole body will be filled with light. The fear of the Lord, Psalm 19, is clean. If I can live in the fear of the Lord and his evaluation is the one that I'm actually taking in and letting shape my life, then I'll actually be cleansed by the fear of the Lord and filled with light. But if I'm constantly tossed about by the storm of everyone else's evaluation of me, and if I'm constantly tossed about by the storm of my own evaluation of me, Jesus said, your body will be filled with darkness. It's the darkness that the writer of Hebrews talks about that becomes that root of bitterness. You are looking to people for something that only Jesus can and must give you in evaluation. And when you look to people for that which only Jesus can give, you end up bitter at the very people you needed something from, but they could not give it to you. And that bitterness leads to brokenness at a deep level. That's the darkness that Jesus is talking about. He says, verse 5, this is so critical. Therefore, judge nothing before the time. What a statement. That 21-day fast, how did we do? The send last year, how did we do? The flood week, how did we do? That ministry assignment, how did I do? That thing that I gave myself to, I threw my life at it, how did I do? Paul says, no, judge nothing. Judge nothing. Evaluate nothing. How did we do? Spring trips, how did we do? Paul says, no, judge nothing before the time. Judge nothing before the time until the Lord comes, who will both bring to light the hidden things of darkness, and he's not talking about sin. The hidden things of darkness in this context, he's not talking about sin. He's talking about the hidden choices to love God that no one else sees or can appreciate. We're used to, we think hidden things because of our shame. We've conditioned ourselves to primarily connect hidden things of darkness to shameful things in darkness. It never occurred to us. It rarely occurs to us that when Jesus looks at our life, he sees so much more hidden in darkness than what we see or think about, which is partly why Paul's saying what he's saying. He's saying, don't judge before the time. You're not equipped. You're not able. You're not free enough to make a healthy evaluation of you. Your shame is causing you to evaluate your life in a distorted way. There's so many things about you that are hidden in darkness that Jesus delights in and can't wait to talk to you about. There's so many hidden choices you've made, so many small decisions. And hidden, it just means that man can't see, nor can man appreciate, nor can man understand so much about your life and so much about the way you love Jesus. No one around you is equipped to appreciate like Jesus does. In fact, you're not equipped to appreciate your own choices to love Jesus. You're not equipped. You love Jesus in hidden, secret ways that no one sees and no one knows. And then in your secret, quiet, honest moments, you go, no one gets me. No one understands me. Lord, I feel so alone. No one understands me. And Jesus goes, yes, it's true. Even you don't understand you. There's only one. He's the one, Paul says, who will bring to light the hidden things of darkness and reveal the counsels of the heart. Sliker, how do you know that hidden things of darkness is something positive? What's the next phrase? Then each one's praise will come from God. When Jesus gives praise related to your life, you're going to be in for the shock of your life. When Jesus, the things that we crave related to affirmation, the things that we crave related to compliments, the things that we crave related to a good evaluation, you're going to be shocked when you hear the words that come out of Jesus' mouth. You're going to be stunned. How do I know? Well, let's start with, just briefly, letter A. You know, when I preached this message to the staff, I was like, is Zach Hensley here? Zach Hensley's over in the corner back there. He leads our pastoral concentration in the Foreigner School of Ministry, how we minister in a healthy way to local churches. And he loves messages on the cross. So I preach this message. It's just filled with the cross. I get done. I'm like, is Zach here? And everyone was like, no. I was like, God. So this part's for you, Zach. He loves stuff on the cross. So let's look at who's saying these words. Let's look at who's saying these words. For Paul, the gospel, it just wasn't, we tend to think of the gospel as that message that's preached that saves us into the new birth, born again. The gospel is the good news. I love what Stuart Greaves said on Friday night, this past Friday. The whole message of the New Testament is the gospel. Because for Paul, it's this complete shift in the way he thinks about everything. Everything is now different because these words are true. What words? How different is it? Well, because of the gospel, he now understands life differently. Because of the gospel, he understands himself differently. Because of the gospel, he understands the world differently. To be justified by faith, this powerful phrase in the New Testament and church history, to be justified by faith was to understand your future in light of something that happened in the past. Because of the cross, because of what's happened in the past, my future is now very different than it was. The work of the cross has secured for me, and the work of the cross has secured for you a certain future. It is certain. It is finished. We are on our way to it. If you don't start the evaluation of your life from Jesus' perspective, from the cross, you're already not healthy. You're already way off. You have to start with confidence related to the future that he's secured. That's where I start. How am I doing? Well, here's how I'm doing. Jesus died on a cross, rose from the dead. The same Spirit that raised Christ Jesus from the dead lives in me. Therefore, my future is certain. I will go into the ground, but I'll be one of the first to come out of it, and I'll live forever with Jesus because of the cross. That's my starting point for evaluation in a healthy way. That's my starting point for wondering, how am I doing? Well, let's start with this. I'm going to live forever with Jesus. Let's start with that. Let's not start with the laundry list of things I don't like about myself. Let's not start with the complaints about other people in ways we wish they would do better. Let's start with what happened in our past that has secured our future. Let's evaluate from a place of security and confidence. What does it mean to be justified by faith? Well, it means in essence, I now know something about my future. I know something. And as a believer, as someone that loves Jesus, when I look at the world, I know something they don't know about the future. Not just my future. The gospel doesn't just secure my future. The gospel secures your future. But more than that, the gospel secures the future of the world. That's what I mean when I say it was a whole shift of how Paul was thinking. Because of the cross, now everybody's so angsty. Oh my gosh, governments and conspiracies and bad things. And oh my gosh, it's so bad and it's getting bad and everything's bad. To be justified by faith is to look past what's happening because of the cross and be absolutely certain of the future the Bible advertises. It's like, yeah, what do you think, Sliker? Is it bad? Yeah, it's bad. Aren't you an end times guy? I am. Well, then tell me how bad it's going to get. Well, I can, but I can also tell you that a minute later, it's going to be gloriously awesome forever. That those world leaders that you're kind of nervous about, those world leaders that you're kind of like posting on social media about, they're going to be gone in a second, and Jesus is forever. There's a certain settledness by which I see my future because of my past that changes the way I live in the present. Do you see it? The cross secures my future and changes my present. How does it change my present? Well, now, because I believe the cross is real and secured something for me and for you related to my future, now I make weird, seemingly stupid, seemingly strange choices to the world. I make really strange choices. So you're telling me, Sliker, you could have went to this college, you could have went to this school, you could have made these millions, you could have made these whatever. You could have been successful at this, you could have been successful at that. You're gifted. You chose to throw your life away. No, I didn't. You think I threw my life away. I think I threw my life at Jesus. There's a huge difference. If you think I wasted my life, I think I gave it. But I gave it because I know something you don't know. He's real. He's alive. He's coming again. I'm a part of that story. I'm going to live forever with him. And so I'm going to make choices that please him, and I'm not so concerned about what you think about those choices. I am justified in my choices by faith. I'm not crossing my fingers and hoping the Bible is true. I am justified in my choices because I know it's true. Because the power that's released through the cross has come to bear on my life, and it's changed the way I think, live, and love. It's real. So that's where my story in evaluation begins. go to the next page. Skipping a lot of good stuff. Zach, you missed it. No, I love Zach. I love him. I love his love for the cross, the gospel. It's beautiful. 1 Corinthians 4:5. So the point is, the Paul of the Gospels is the Paul that's saying these words. We got to understand the man to understand the words. And the man is talking as a man secured by cross and love and fire and blood. He's a man whose life is secure. It takes a man whose life is secure. He's not secure in himself. He's secure in the work of Jesus through the cross. He's secure through the blood of Jesus. He's secure. And so as a man secure, he's able to say as a man secure. And I am talking tonight to young men and young women who are not secure. If you are not secure, by definition, you are insecure. The reason why you struggle in self-evaluation is you evaluate from a place of not security. You evaluate from a place of insecurity. Your whole life changes when you evaluate from a place of security. Not confident in yourself. I will not boast in the flesh, Paul said, but I am confident. My confidence is in him. My confidence is in the cross. My confidence is in the blood. You have to start evaluation. How did we do? So we did the sand, we did the fast, we did the thing, we did the spiritual thing, we did the camp, we did the ministry, we did the assignment, we did the outreach. How did we do? First question, are you secure in the work of grace through the cross? And does that cross shout that he's moved by you and loves you? And are you asking the question, how did I do? Are you asking it from that place? The one who knows me most loves me deeply and is committed to me to the end with joy. Are you asking from that place, are you talking about that Jesus? If you're talking about the right Jesus, then you can ask how you're doing from a secure place. If you're asking about the wrong Jesus, it's only going to fuel your insecurity and make you feel more racked and riddled with self-doubt and shame and condemnation. First Corinthians 4, 1 through 5, Paul is enjoying, he's reveling in how he's not subject to the broken and sinful evaluations of those around him. You got a picture, Paul is having so much fun with this. What do I mean? What I mean is, the human court with the fallen, depressed judge whose marriage is on the rocks. Can you imagine your whole life is in the balance of that guy? It's like, oh, my whole future is in that guy's hands. What that guy decides now is going to determine what job I'm able to get. What that guy decides now is going to determine where I'm going to live, what I'm going to do, whether I'm going to go to jail or not. My whole life is in that guy's hands. And that guy is like a closet alcoholic sex addict. Paul goes, I got good news. Because of the cross, because of the resurrection, because of the indwelling spirit, because of my future bought by blood, because I've been loved and washed by the blood of the man that fought for me, my future is no longer in that guy's hands. I don't have to think about a human court as the final word on what my life is about. And no offense to any of you, none of you are the final word. My life is not in your hands. Even greater news, the best news of all, my future isn't in my own hands. My future is not subject to my own evaluation, my own sense of how I'm doing. My future isn't in my own hands. I've been set free from broken, fallen, messed up evaluations of me. And I get to revel, I get to enjoy, I get to celebrate the glorious, grace-filled, love-saturated evaluations of Jesus. He's the only voice that really counts in the end. He's the only one that really gets to evaluate me, and he's the only one that can. We live sometimes for the right leader, the right important person, the right person that we just need to see that we're awesome. I hope that person notices me. Did you notice me? Hey, look, I did the spiritual thing. Look at me. Look, I served and ministered, and this person had breakthrough. Did you see? Did you see? No, I didn't. I'm self-absorbed and self-obsessed like every other human on the earth. I have no idea what you just did. Hold on, let me try again. Watch. Come out in the name of Jesus. Look. How'd I do? I mean, we need that leader, that preacher, that renowned person, that person that we respect and honor. Now, we are called to encourage one another. We are called to exhort one another. We are called to bless one another with our speech. And we do, encourage means to put courage in one another. When we speak kind words to one another about one another, we are supposed to do it. We're not supposed to feed off of it as our life source. We're not supposed to take it as the determining final word on who we are. We are to be blessed when people say kind things to us. We are to be encouraged when people say kind things to us. You could be happy about it. Don't leave this sermon and somebody's like, hey, man, good job the other day. I saw you blessing that orphan. Man, good job. No. Don't speak to me or evaluate me. Only Jesus. Come on. Come on. Don't do that. That's weird. No. Here's what I say every time somebody says, hey, great job with that sermon. It really blessed me. I genuinely say, thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for telling me. That really encourages me. That blesses me. It does. But if they're like, well, that sermon stunk, I'm not like, well, I guess that's that. I guess that was a stinky sermon. God, why did I even waste my time? If I don't do that, if I don't lose my preaching ministry every time somebody doesn't like a sermon, then I'm not going to gain it every time they do. Hey, great sermon, Sliker. Wow, I will continue to preach because of that. No, I'm going to put it in its right perspective. I'm going to receive it and be encouraged by it. I'm going to be blessed by it. I'm going to love the person and really appreciate the person that said that to me. But in terms of evaluating my preaching ministry, only one man can do that. And only one man should. The small, quiet moments of our lives. Letter E on page 2. When we're spent, tired, worn out, frustrated, nothing seems to be working like we want it to work. We find ourselves in the worst possible setting to evaluate how it's going. 6 weeks from now, your parents, your friends back home, they're going to be like, IHOP you, eh? How's it going? You're going to be like, I hate you, I hate God, and I hate Sliker. Like it's going to be. That is not the time. I said this to our staff. I'll say this to you, though many of you will not appreciate what I say because you're too new. Even you old veteran one thing interns. You're too new. There's a reason why we don't do the one thing conference anymore. People, everywhere I go, everywhere I travel, every ministry, somebody inevitably says, oh man, why don't you do the one thing conference anymore? That really blessed me when you guys did that. You guys should do that again. And I'm always like, it cost you nothing to say that. There's a reason why we don't do it anymore. It about killed our staff every year. January 3rd, every staff member is like, why am I alive and even doing this? Who am I? Where am I going with my life? It's like, no, stop. take a nap. It's not a demon. Just rest, recover. Don't make any big decisions. Don't draw any conclusions. Just hours-wise, I said to our staff, I said, I don't know if you guys have done the math, but this 21-day fast, because our whole staff really did it, our whole staff, you guys know, I said to the staff, I go, you just did 8 One Thing conferences in a row. They did that. They were like, whoa. I mean, you guys were gone. You were home. You were on your blissful little islands called home. Meanwhile, our staff crashed. We were like, oh, God. I think everybody went on vacation in June. I didn't see anyone I knew. I think visitors sustained the prayer movement for the month of June. It's a joke. The worst moment. But Paul understands. We get it. But Paul understands the opposite is also true. The opposite is also true. But we take the bait. We know after a conference or after a camp or after a fast, after something intense, we know, don't evaluate right now. We're super wise now. We're like, yeah, don't evaluate right now. Let's just wait till I recover. But when it comes to the exact opposite, we take the bait every time. This was the best breakthrough moment in the history of mankind. How's it going? It couldn't be going better. It's amazing. And everything's great. No, stop it. That's not only poor self-evaluation, that's hype. You don't know how it's going. When I was a youth pastor, I started in youth ministry when I was 21. I'm coming up on my 50-year birthday. Woo! Yes. Blame it on the Asian gift if you're wondering, if you know what I mean. So I started in youth ministry at 21, and immediately after my first round of youth ministry, I started evaluating. Oh, I did bad. I was a bad youth pastor. That didn't go good. Oh, my gosh, that was horrible. But the thing is, I didn't realize how stupid that was. You can't figure out how your ministry went 10 minutes after you finished it. You got to wait at least 10 years plus to begin to see the fruit of your investment, your time, your ministry. You got to wait at least 10 years. Now, most of those teenagers that I ministered to at 21, 22, 23, most of those teenagers now, because I was like 21 and they were 16. I mean, they're in their 40s now. They got kids. Their kids are starting to graduate from high school. That's how long I've been in youth ministry. And the ones I would have picked, the ones that I was like, that young man's going places. It's like 3 drug rehabs later, it's like, oh. And then the other person that I might be like, that young man has no future. He's leading a ministry now. You can't. You don't have the ability when it's going bad or good to determine that it's bad or good. The point isn't to feel good that it's good. The point is to be moved that he's moved. How's it going? Is your ministry going great? How's IHOP you? How's it going? Jesus is moved by it. What's he moved by? He's moved by the faithfulness of the team and the hunger of the students. So how are you doing? I don't know. How are the students? I don't know. You'll hear me say, I don't know a lot. Even what are you excited about this year? What's the Lord saying about this year? What are you excited about? What's the Lord going to do this year at IHOP U? I don't know. How did last year go? No clue. I mean it. How will I know? 10, 20 years from now, people in this room will be doing what they do for Jesus, and I'll be prouder than a proud dad on Proud Dad Day. I don't even know what that means. But who knows? I don't know. Even our best moments we're not equipped to evaluate. Only the man with eyes like a flame of fire can evaluate. And he can and he does. There's available grace through the power of the Spirit to align with him, to be transformed, to be empowered to love like he does. And this is what I love. According to clear standards that we can choose today to obey, all of which can empower us to judge and evaluate with the right spirit from the right perspective. So I want to be very clear. Paul, like Jesus in Matthew 7:1, letter G, he is not saying that we're never to judge. The word judge means to evaluate so that we can approve or correct. We're not to never judge. That's not what Paul's saying. He exhorts the Corinthians to judge righteously in the very next chapter. So he's not saying don't ever judge anybody. The Bible says don't judge. Just so you know. You mean the passage where like 2 verses later Jesus said to judge? What? What we want to do is we must, you must, everybody in this room, everybody online, we must renounce the spirit of worldly judgment and evaluation of ourselves, of one another, that has infected the Western church. The way that our culture emboldens judgment without mercy, judgment with rejection, without redemption, without restoration. Just you're done. You're out. We will celebrate, read the books of, and attend the conference of the people that are super fruitful because we have evaluated them to be awesome because they're big. That's like, what? Well, they're big, therefore they are successful. Man, I mean, IHOP, you guys, right? I mean, you guys are like successful. Why? Oh, yeah, I mean, you guys, your reach. The leaders I talk to, man, you guys are like doing it. Doing what? You're just doing it. Just your reach. Your reach. I mean, wow. I mean, people and out there and man. I'm thinking we're doing it because we're showing up to a prayer room when we don't want to on a Monday morning. But that Western way of evaluation, it's got to be seen. It's got to be on social media or it didn't happen. It's got to be flashy. It's got to be big. It's got to be pretty. It's got to be amazing. I'll go to that guy's conference and I'll read that guy's book. But then the moment that guy blows it, that guy's out. Our unhealthy evaluation goes both ways. We wrongly evaluate that which is good and we wrongly evaluate that which is bad. And we do it in this Western, fallen, critical spirit of wrong judgment. We're not looking to evaluate so that we can approve or correct. We're looking to evaluate so we can be successful like they are, and then discard them when we're done with them. We must judge, as the other passage on the first page talked about, Matthew 7. We must judge so that we can remove the specks from our brother's eyes. Jesus said, I want you to judge so that you can actually help your brother. I want you to help your brother. So you got to get and we know this passage, but we kind of don't. I want you to get the planks out of your eye so you can get the specks out of theirs. In other words, I want you to deal with the big major issues of your life before the Lord. And once you touch his mercy in the doing of it, once you touch his tenderness, in other words, before you work on your brother, before you evaluate your brother or your sister's issues, before you evaluate the stuff about them that you don't like or you want to see changed, before you want to change the people around you, before you want to change the ministries around you, before you do that, Paul says, or Jesus says in Matthew 7, take on the massive big issues of your life and run right into the mercy and the tenderness and the kindness and the extravagance and the generosity and the sweetness and the faithfulness of Jesus. Meet him in your biggest issues and see what he's like. When you encounter his kindness, his mercy, and his tenderness, now you're better equipped to use tweezers with care to gently get specks out of your brother's eye. So many of us, we want to get specks out. It's like, why are you here in ministry school? Oh, I'm gonna minister to people. I'm gonna help people. I'm gonna do it. It's like, really? Because have you looked at your fingers lately? You are like ham-handed sausage fingers. Your brother's got a speck. You pick up that tweezer, you're going to be like, gouge, 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 gouge. You don't like that imagery? That's the imagery Jesus is using in Matthew 7. You're this ham-handed, sausage-fingered, tweezer-wielding maniac. You're going to gouge their eyes out. The Lord goes, no, you got to evaluate in a healthy way, and healthy evaluation starts with the cross, gets filled with confident love, and runs into my mercy so that as you get tender, you deal with your brother's issues with tenderness and precision and care. You get that speck out carefully. You're careful with their eye. You're careful with their speck. You're tender towards it. Jesus goes, do that. Evaluate that way. Last point. The stabilizing power of the Beatitudes. Last point. Well, technically I've got 2 points, but I'll make them quick. I got 2 minutes, 1 minute per point. Healthy self-evaluation in the fear of the Lord looks like a desire to do his will and reflect his attitudes so that we express love in a way that looks like Jesus when dealing with others. Therefore, we don't ask ourselves how we're doing based on how we're feeling about ourselves in the moment. We don't ask ourselves how we're doing based on how we feel at all. We ask ourselves how we're doing based on the objective standard of the Word of God. That's why I love the Sermon on the Mount. I don't have to guess. See, I come from a Spirit-filled, charismatic, Pentecostal background. And how you're doing is always based on how you're discerning, based on what you're picking up in the Spirit. Oh, I see stuff. No, I'm picking up stuff. I don't think we're doing good right now. We're not? Oh, no, brother. I feel it. I feel it. There's sin in the camp. You're just feeling that now? I mean, there's been sin in the camp a long time. I hate to break this to you. Like, what changed today that, from like yesterday and the last 10 years? Well, today there's sin. I can feel it. What do? Well, we march around this building 10 times and we drive a stake in the ground. And then what happens? Oh, and then it'll be amazing. What if it's not amazing? How do you define amazing? And they're like nobody can ever give, I'm the worst. I'm the worst. Because I would always ask these questions, and I'm coming from an unsaved home. I meant it. I didn't know, though, that people didn't like those questions. They're like, stop asking questions, just try the steak. Okay. I think it's weird, but, oh, look, we drove the steak, and here we are. They're still sitting in the camp. No, I fell in love with the Sermon on the Mount immediately. Why? Because I don't have to discern. I got to obey. It's really simple. Do I hunger and thirst for righteousness? No. Okay. If I start with cross and blood, if I start with confidence and affection, if I start with he loves me and he's for me, then when I look at the Beatitudes, I can go, how am I doing? Am I meek? No. Sweet. Help me, Lord. I don't have to go, I'm not meek today. I don't have to rend my garments in some religious exercise of showing God how sorry I am that I'm not hungering and thirsting for righteousness. It's way simpler than that. I just get to look at it. I get to read it. I get to go, I think this means that I'm hungering and thirsting for the peace of God on earth and all of his righteousness established in fullness. It's been about 4 days straight, and I haven't thought about it, much less hungered for it. You're saying that you're going to evaluate my whole life based on that and other things, and I'm pretty far from that, so here I am. Do it. Help me. Without shame, I can let the Word evaluate me. And without shame, I can see where I come short. And without shame, I can go, Lord, do it. Fill me with a hunger and a thirst for your righteousness. Fill me with a purity of heart. Fill me, Lord. Fill me. I see the standard. Here's what's amazing. The day before the fast and the day after the fast, it's like, all right, I'm thinking about all of our Awakening Teen Camp group leaders. All of you exhausted, tired out, strung out, pathetic weaklings. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Here you are, it's post-camp. It's like, how did I do? What do I do? It's so intense. What do I do? Simple. Here's the thing. Your Christianity before the fast is the same as your Christianity after the fast. Your Christianity before camp is your Christianity after the camp. And what do? Here's what we do. Back to the Beatitudes. Here I am. It's the day after the thing. It's the day after the historic, gigantic, epic, world-changing thing. What do? Blessed are the poor in spirit. Lord, I need you right here, right now. Lord, I want to start by acknowledging there's so much more of you that I can experience. I want that. Let's start right there. Here's the great thing. The great thing about the Beatitudes is that the more that you engage with God about them, the more they develop your spiritual palate, the more they develop your spiritual senses. In other words, not only do you actually grow in them by reaching for them, but you actually learn to look for them. And you learn to recognize them. And it becomes easier and easier to align and realign your life around them. You can settle in to what Christianity is about, loving Jesus on his terms, his way, according to his commands, and being faithful to do that. Like, here's the crazy thing. The Lord goes, hey, I've got your ministry assignment. He's like passing them out. You're a senior at IHOP. He's passing out the Lord. The Holy Spirit's walking around, passing out ministry assignments. You are going to work with orphans. You are going to go to the nations. It's always the nations. No one ever says, I'm going to go to South Africa. They always go, the nations. It's like, because it sounds, I think, more grandiose that way. You're going to go to the nations. You're going to go to the janitor's job. What? What? Did I do something wrong? No. No, your Christianity isn't whatever he hands you when you graduate. Your Christianity is the Beatitudes. And so whatever he hands you is the place that he's sending you to live the Beatitudes. Guess what happened during the 21-day fast? The Beatitudes happened. You didn't stop pursuing the Beatitudes during the 21-day fast. You didn't stop, hopefully, when you were doing ATC. You didn't stop those things. You just stay with it. Because when you stand before him, those 9 things are going to be what he evaluates your life around. When he talks to you about your life, you had it in front of you all along. When I handed you your ministry assignment, did you know that you were poor in spirit, and what did you do about it? Did you mourn? Did you pursue meekness? Did you ache for purity of heart? Did you hunger and thirst for righteousness? Did you love mercy? He's going to ask you those questions. You don't have to guess how the judgment seat's going to go. That's how it's going to go. And if you know how the judgment seat's going to go, you can start asking him now. And you can live that way now. And then you can hit the historic moment, and you can be like, yeah, we're doing it, historic stuff, we're world changers. And it's over in like seconds, like every historic thing is. And now what? The Beatitudes. Right, got it, Beatitudes. It's so simple. It's so easy. There has to be more to it than this. There has to be more prophetic discernment required. No, there isn't. It's very straightforward. And you can evaluate your life as you go around those verses. Last passage, Colossians 1, 9 through 11. Really simple principle. Fill me with the knowledge of your will, with all wisdom and spiritual understanding. In other words, tell me how to do this stuff, that I might walk worthy, that I'd be fully pleasing, that I'd be fruitful in every good work. That's what we all want to be. Fill me with the knowledge. Fill me with the understanding. It's why you're here. You're at this school. You're online. You're staying with it after a couple hours online because you want to be filled with the knowledge of His will. Why? So that you could walk worthy of your calling, so that you could be fruitful with your life in a way that moves Him, in a way that pleases Him. I want to be fully pleasing to Jesus. But then Paul prays this. He prays, I ask for the release of the Spirit of glory on your life. And we're like, now we're talking like dead raisins. We're talking like demons and people coming out of graves and cancer like falling on the ground, just like a big plop of cancer, just on the ground. Paul goes, no, I'm praying for the Spirit of glory for an entirely different reason. I'm not praying it for your anointed ministry. I want the Spirit of glory to explode on the inside of you so that you can be filled with patience and suffer long with joy. Suffer long? What do you mean? What do you mean suffer long? Why do I have to suffer long? Why do I need the Spirit of glory to suffer long? Oh, because as you get filled with the knowledge of His will, the Beatitudes become more clear to you. You understand them better. And you get more wisdom in how to walk out the Beatitudes. But as you get the insight and the wisdom and the understanding, you also get something else, a really clear sense of the gap between you and the Beatitudes. Like, wow, I'm really far off from biblical Christianity. I've been living this cultural Christianity that has no resemblance to Matthew 5. Now that I see it, I'm like, am I even saved? And Paul goes, yes, you're saved, and I ask for the Spirit of glory for patience as you start to close the gap. That you can suffer long with what you know is biblical Christianity and what you're living today. That you can suffer long with joy. How do I suffer long with joy? Paul goes, simple. The cross, the blood, the secured future, the faithful Jesus. He loves you, and He's fighting for you. Amen. Let's stand.